Today's podcast is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. I recently joined as a member, and you can too. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with the advertisers that fit your audience. That's podgo.co at podgo.co.
And please put unprofessional development in the How Did You Hear About Podgo? That will give us a little finder's fee. Thank you. Hello, unprofessionals. So as you know, now we're doing real commercials, not just the silly ones that we normally do. So today I've got with me my daughter Micah. Say hello, Micah.
Hi.
She has an Etsy account. It's called what?
Roo Makes Bracelets.
Roo Makes Bracelets, okay? We'll put a link in the show notes for you for sure. So she makes some friendship bracelets. She even has one that is kind of an unprofessional bracelet where she's made the unpro letters in the bracelet. So if you need a bracelet, go to Roo's Bracelets. Anything else you want to say about your bracelets?
No.
Okay. Well, she's a little kid. She's 11 years old. She's entrepreneuring. You know, support her. And go to Roo's Bracelets. Click the link in the show notes. Thank you. Say goodbye, Micah.
Bye.
Unprofessionals, we need your help. Mealy and I keep trying to explain to the world how special we are, but they won't believe us. Here's what you can do. Check in the show notes for the link to the People's Podcast Awards. And please nominate us so the rest of the world can realize exactly how amazing we are. Enjoy! Welcome, Unprofessionals, to another episode of Unprofessional Development. I'm Tedisco.
And I'm Mealy. And today we have with us Keenan Lee. Yet again, I know you're listening to whatever episode this is, and you're like, how much time does that Mealy spend on the Twitter? But I'm on the Twitter way too much. And Keenan, he spends probably more time than he'd want to admit on the Twitter as well.
Yes.
But I met him there.
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here to have this conversation with you guys today.
Yeah,
awesome.
To have you too. I'm sorry for cutting you off, Mealy.
So yeah, we're glad to have you here. So Keenan and I have gone back and forth, and we follow some similar people and had some conversations. And he said he had funny stories, and whether you have funny stories or not, if you say you have funny stories, then that's how you get on this podcast. All right, you know, or I don't know. We don't have any fake teachers. We didn't have someone that like really pulls one over, like catfishes us, and just wants to be on the podcast and is like, I want to be on a podcast. I'll say I'm a teacher, but why they would do that, but I don't know.
Show used to have on those fake guests all the time.
Who did?
Jerry Springer. He'd have people on, and they just make up stories.
Yes, yeah, that's good stuff.
I think that's a good podcast. I think you should do it the next time.
We should.
Have some fake people come on.
Have fake people come on.
Well, we'll invite over 3 people, and only one of them will be a teacher.
Yes.
Well, we should try and really get on other podcasts pretending to be other things. Like I could be like an aerospace engineer, okay? And maybe I can get like on NPR and tell them stuff. I don't know. Anyway, so back to you, Keenan. You really are a teacher as far as we know, okay? You have not sent me a PDF of your teaching license yet, but we can make that happen before we release the podcast. But,
it's an elaborate hoax for that intense teacher Twitter you got going.
Yes.
You know, you put so much hours into it, I think we should reward it.
Yes. So talk to us about how you got into teaching and why you became a teacher and how, and kind of walk us down that road.
All right, so I've always, in some capacity, I've always worked with children since the age of 14. So I started out doing after-school care for my local YMCA in Maryland.
Okay.
And it just progressed over time how much I loved working with children. My mom told me when I was a little boy, I always wanted to teach my friends. Like when I was in kindergarten, before we could play, we had to learn. So I was the teacher all the time. So I just think learning has always been something I've been into. So I just think, I love learning and I want to be able to help others. So I want to be a teacher. So I've always wanted to do this.
Okay.
So just working in different capacities of teaching, learning, and education has just
That's cool.
helped me fulfill my dream of being a teacher.
And how long have you been a teacher at this point?
All right. So my current job, I've been there almost 3 years.
Okay.
But before there, I worked for preschool for the YMCA and then Franklin County Head Start. So altogether about a good 5 years.
Awesome.
That's great. And so, have you always worked with like younger kids with elementary school level?
Yes, I've never had anything above, like, I've never taught anything above first grade. I did one internship in the fifth, when I was an undergrad in the 5th grade class, and I graded papers the whole time. So I think I knew that wasn't for me.
Okay.
Early education has always been my thing.
That just blows my mind. See, I can't. All right, so I have a similar track as you. I started off at the YMCA. I was about like 15 at the time, and so I'd worked with kids from 6 up to 16 there throughout the years, and I can't keep up with like the young kids. Like it's so much all the time, and their energy is through the roof. So like, what's it like being an elementary school teacher? Like, how do you do it?
It's like trying to hold on to a train that's running away, but like someone's pulling at you, and like bombs are going off all at the same time.
And you have to collect data while it's happening.
Yeah, and collecting data, and then hurting the cats. It's like you're doing all this at once, and it's nonstop and constantly going. But I know after the first week of school, usually I come home and I'm beat. I said, whew, I don't know how I'm going to make it all year long, but I think it brings me joy to be able to, I won't say keep up. I try to keep up, but be able to be around those forces of energy all day long.
Yeah. If you haven't been a teacher, that is something I hadn't thought about in a while. They talk about like football players and basketball players, like getting into like a certain level of shape, like they can work out, but until they actually start practicing or playing games, they can't really do that as well. You can't simulate playing basketball with all the bumping and all that. You can't simulate the energy draining that is being a teacher. And it does sometimes that first week back. You find your groove, and you kind of almost have to develop like another level of energy that you have to get through. Sometimes that first day, you just walk out and you just feel like a rag. You're like, oh my God.
And especially in the earlier grades, like pre-K through second. They're so young, and like you said, they have so much energy, and they're so lovable. So they just want to hug and like hold your hand and be right in front of you all the time. So like all the attention that you get, plus trying to teach them routines, it's really tiring. Right. It is. Right.
And a lot of them, I mean, that kindergarten, but a lot of them, just the idea that it's no longer all about you. My kids didn't go to, daycare, so they're so used to it's like, oh, there's an adult in the room. I talk, they listen. I'm sure there's a lot of challenges with that, with elementary school kids and high school kids as well. But yeah,
it is. Especially like I think after you build that relationship with kids, they think that you belong to them. So if another adult walks into the room, all of them need something at that time. I'm like, no, we talk about this. You have to wait. I'm allowed to talk to other people. I'm there. They think that they're my only friends. So I'm only supposed to talk to them. And I think it's because you spend 7.5 hours a day with the little ones. So I feel like I spend more time with them than my own family. So, I mean, I don't have kids, but like my mom and everyone else. But I think they are kind of like my kids.
And the cool thing about teaching first grade as well is that you get to see them for the next 4 years as well, and all the visits back, and see the growth. That relationship continues, I'm sure, and they just really, really enjoy it. Which have only been, you said at your current school, how long?
I've been there almost 3 years.
Okay, so you'll probably get to see that more as you go along, but I'm sure you've seen that already.
So my first class that I started in January of a school year, and they're actually going into 4th grade this year, so it's kind of cool to see them. Yeah. But they always want to come over and visit. They'll stop and see me in the morning. I'm like, but you didn't like me when I was your teacher. Joking with them. They said, no, we liked you. I said, no. But they like to come over and get a snack, come say hi to my other kids. And then my first graders like, who are those kids? I said, I had them when they were in 1st grade. So it's really kind of full circle. I like to have them come over and read stories and, buddy read with my 1st graders.
Yeah, that's really
great.
That really, really is cool.
Yeah, and I'm also curious too. So, male elementary school teachers, in my mind, seem very rare, right? So you have kind of a unique experience there. Do you notice any sort of like differences as a male elementary school teacher? Like, are there any other like responsibilities thrown on you?
I think the parents are like kind of thrown off because it's just historically not, especially in the earlier grades, it's not many male teachers there. So a lot of times they like when you have Mr. Lee and they'll show up and it's me. I'm like, oh, hey, how are you? So like, sometimes it's like proving yourself. Like I'm just as good as my female counterparts here. But by the end of the school year, we build that relationship. And I think like I had a parent text me yesterday telling me that they're moving to Columbus. So I think I built like, that trust and that relationship. So it's really interesting.
Does it enter into the collegial dynamic as well? We had on the Hands Up guys in an early episode. They call it primary over there. And they're like, we're the only male teachers in the school. So we kind of like formed a bond. So is there kind of like a dynamic to the school being a male teacher and how all that works, or not really?
Not really. I say we had four male teachers this past year. Our music and art teacher were males, along with a fourth grade teacher. But I don't really see them often, so I'm kind of like, I'm on a team of four, and I'm the only male. Okay. So sometimes they said, you have more issues than the rest of us. I said, I have to have my voice heard. No, not really. I think we all get along pretty well.
That's cool. That's
cool. Awesome. And I know you teach in an inner city school?
Yes.
So I'm sure there's probably a lot of challenges there as well.
Lack of funding. I can go on and list on. My school actually sits right in the middle of the community.
Okay. Oh,
wow.
So a lot of my students walk or they're dropped off to school. And like when I'm leaving school, sometimes around 4 or 5 in the evening, they'll be outside riding their bikes and they'll stop and say hi. Or previous students that I've had, they'll run over and say hi to me or ask, do I have anything in my car to eat? And I'll dig in and look for something for them. So it's kind of cool that I work where the students live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Helps build that unique connection with them.
Mm-hmm. But you don't live there, though. Is that by choice, or is that...
It's by choice.
Okay.
That's a good choice, I think.
I think there's mixed reviews on that, but yeah, I think... Diska, didn't you live somewhere near a school you taught at one point?
Oh, yeah. When I got hired, I moved from New York down to Charlotte. So I didn't know really anybody near or around my school. It was total reset button. So I just got the first apartment I could find near my school. And yeah, I had a student who moved in next door to me.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's going to be awkward if he fails. Oh.
Yeah.
Phone calls home are going to be easy. All I have to do is knock.
Bang on the wall. Hey, I can talk to you.
Oh, you should know.
I would say when I worked for Head Start, I lived in the same area where the kid, where the center was. So when I would go to the grocery store, the parents would stop and talk, I'm kind of like, I love talking to you, but if I'm trying to get in the store and out, I just don't want to always do that. So, but I will go and visit on the weekends. Like, I'll go and work in my classroom Saturday or Sunday. So I'm always visible in the community.
That's cool.
That's great.
That's cool.
I think it's really important, and I don't think people talk about it enough, of having male teachers in the classroom, because I think students need to see positive male role models. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of them, especially, a lot of my low-income kids, they don't necessarily come from families without a father, but they'll come from families where, their parents are working a lot. Mm-hmm. And so they don't see a lot of, male role models or comforting male role models in their lives. Mm-hmm. And I think it's nice for them to see a male who can be compassionate and be softer or caring. Mm-hmm. It's an important dynamic for them to see.
Yes.
The second grade teachers in my building always call me a teddy bear because we have assemblies and my kids are always hanging over me.
Oh.
So it's fun until you're like hot and like, no, move away. It's okay. Go wipe your nose.
Why are you sticky?
Yes.
Why are you wet? I don't want to know.
Oh God. Oh. So something we wanted to share. And so for those of you who listen to the podcast regularly, and some of you are just tuning in because you're just like a huge fan of Keenan, when we're recording this, we're kind of still on the tail end of George Floyd. It's been about a month or so since then. And so as a black male, would you like to speak on Black Lives Matter? Because me and Tedisco, we're a couple of white guys. We have our thoughts and opinions and feelings or whatever, but we want to kind of let the person who experiences it have the microphone in.
I think that the Black Lives Matter movement. I think it's perfect. I think it's a great time for us as educators to educate ourselves, our colleagues, and our students on social and racial injustices within our country. And I think everything that's happened between March and now of the year, it's a perfect time when we go back to school to sit down and have those tough conversations with our students, because they haven't really had that with not many people unless they're family. But sometimes it's also nice to get that outside opinion. And I think I've personally had a lot of conversations with my white colleagues around the Black Lives Matters and why it's important. It's just not like from defunding the police and that we don't want police, but we need some type of reform so that us as Black or other brown people are treated equal. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times, if you don't experience that, you don't know what it's like.
Right.
So I think it's a very important time for us to be able to, shape history. We can take this movement and make some changes.
It's a tragedy, but sometimes it takes something like that to wake people up. And I think that there's room for both, that there's people who get hung up on the phrasing, and go into the all lives matter, or they get hung up on the specific organization versus more of a movement and a trend. I think that exists in a larger Black Lives Matter universe where there's people who are just talking about the importance of the Black lives and helping people to understand what they might not realize about themselves.
I agree. And I think a lot of times, like especially with, I think the biggest thing I've noticed is that a lot of people get hung up, like I said, over the defunding of the police. I said, if we take some of those billions of dollars, don't take it all,
right,
but take it and put it in some areas like education, mental health awareness, and also offer more help for our communities, we would see crime rates go down. And then I don't understand why police really need military style vehicles. That just blows my mind.
Right.
But if we can take that and put it somewhere where it would really be beneficial to help make the change for the future, I think that would help. Unless you've worked in education or a human service field, it's kind of hard to see why it's important that we fund those types of programs.
I think, we have sort of a unique glimpse of the world where we can go we definitely need mental health help. We definitely need drug rehabilitation in this country. And if we can address to a substantial degree drugs and mental health, I mean, what's that going to do to crime?
Right. You have to treat the cause and not as much the symptoms. And I think we live in a soundbite culture and people hear defund the police and we're like, oh, we're just going to everyone can rob and shoot. And that's not what that means. What that means is we need to figure out a way to keep people safe, but also create communities where it's safe most of the time anyway. They're there in terms of an emergency.
One of the other struggles for educators in this time is the teachers who feel uncomfortable or ill-equipped to talk about race in the classroom. And I think those teachers really just need to start doing their homework and get comfy with it. I mean, we need to talk about it. It's something that has to be talked about. It shouldn't be optional.
Do you know, have you guys watched Manuel Acho? I'm talking about H.O. and how he says his last name. But he literally has a YouTube series called Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. And he's like, we need to have uncomfortable conversations. And being uncomfortable, you will eventually become comfortable. But growth doesn't happen without discomfort.
And I just had a conversation with one of my colleagues about that. And about, as a Black man, I was giving her an example. I said, I have to work even though I have a teaching job, I still have to work 10 times harder than you do every day to prove to the administrators or whoever that I'm worthy of my job. I said, every day I fight for a seat at the table.
Yes.
And I said, you wouldn't think that it would still be like that in 2020? I said, but it is. I said, there's biases all the time.
Of course there are.
That I have to fight because of being a Black man. And then being a Black man in early education, it's even harder.
I still remember, this is many, many moons ago, but being at college, and I went to college in rural Pennsylvania, not too far from where you are now, there were people there, they would see the Black students, and they would say to me when we were just only white people in a room, well, the only reason they're at this college is because they're Black. If it weren't for doors that were open for them rather than getting in justifiably. And what you're talking about, having to work and do your job on a level above and beyond the average in order to be seen as good enough. There's that bias there that runs through people's brains unconsciously, and it's going to take a lot to get that out of there.
It is sad.
So how do you see that working with elementary school kids? Because a lot of them, hopefully at this point, their biases are minimal. But how do I have these conversations in a first grade classroom with, 7-year-olds?
Bouncing off of that question too, do you see kids coming in with like limited bias because they're so young, or do you see them all coming in just sort of echoing whatever they hear at home?
Well, the funny thing is that our kids are very, like where I work, a lot of them, their biases are against the Hispanic children or people. And there's a whole thing I've heard at one of our high schools between the Hispanics and the black students. And like, I had a student this past year say, you always pick on the Spanish boys. And I was a little thrown off by that. So then a lot of times when I go to talk about these subjects, I find a text, like a literature or a children's book to read to them, to open up that dialogue. Because I think it's important, but what other way could I connect with them other than reading the story and then having them like us discussing it?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's really hard. And then a lot of times, also our kids are biased based on their skin tone, light skin and dark skin.
Yep. Yeah.
And I said, we're all brown, so I think it's all right. I try to tell them, I said, it doesn't matter if you're light skin or dark skin, we're all the same brown.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're a little too young to go into the whole genealogy of everything.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of hard to shift that mindset. Because if they hear it outside of the classroom, like at home or on the playground, it's like, no, what I told you, it's like, it's reversed when you go home because you hear it again from friends or siblings. So it's definitely a challenge that it's like an uphill battle that you're always fighting.
Yeah.
But I think what you said is important, though, that you find a book that can open the conversation. Because I think the issue that a lot of teachers have with race is they think, I don't know what to say. And honestly, you just need to listen.
Right.
Like, if you just sit back and just hear what the kids have to say.
Yeah.
And hear where are the flaws in their mindset, where are their biases, where are their blind spots. And then you just present other things for them to think about. I mean, you can take a week or two to process through the things that they said and brought to the table, and then come up with a new story, a new handout, a new lesson. And you can just keep the conversation going. And so long as you just keep them thinking about it, I mean, that's progress.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel the sooner we open up that dialogue with the kids, the more knowledge they'll gain by the time they get to another situation. By the time they get to high school, they'll be a little bit more knowledgeable about that tough subject on race.
Yeah.
And I think it's important because, in high school, you're going through so many different changes and you're introduced to so many different people and so many different ethnicities. And I think it's important to know how to gauge and guide your way through that.
Yeah, and even if you don't change their mind, you can at least lay the groundwork for them to just keep processing it and maybe change their mind later.
Related to that, and I'm just echoing what many, many people have said, there's no finish line. Freeing the slaves was not the finish line. Civil rights acts weren't the finish line. All the things that are changes that are taking place post George Floyd is not the finish line. It's just a constant, we're humans and we have flaws and mistakes and we have a society that is different kinds of broken in different places, and it's just going to take continued work on that.
Oh, yeah. That's what I tell my students, too. I mean, I had a kid ask me last year if I thought I was racist. And I said, well, I know I'm biased. Like, I know I prefer people like me, not because I want to, but because that's kind of how our brains just come pre-programmed.
Right.
And I need to work to overcome that. I need to be thinking about that and be conscious of that every day. So I'm not going to say I dislike people. I mean, racism isn't just about hate. Racism's about bias. It's about preference. It's about treatment.
Right.
And so, it's something I'm always going to be working on. And I hope you guys think about it and work on it too.
Yeah. Same thing here. I thought I wasn't until I went through a training about 4 years ago. And then I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I had this and that and the other thing. Because this is, it's going to sound like virtue signaling, whatever. But my wife is black and my kids are mixed. So I'm like, how could I be racist? You know what I mean? Right. They're like, no, that that doesn't absolve you of biases just because you happen to marry somebody of a
That's like
different
saying,
race.
I can't be sexist, I have a wife. It's not how that works.
Right.
But in my head, it did. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I went through a training, which I thought was like going to be a waste of time for me. This is for like the racist teachers, not me. Like, why am I taking this? And I'm like, oh, that? Oh, I do that. Oh, I think that. Oh, I've said that. Oh, okay. More work to do. We always need refresher courses. Sometimes we need a major change, and sometimes you need refreshing, and everyone's at different spots, but we all need to grow.
And I feel like a lot of times, like, our professional development through our school district is not focused on the cultural proficiency or unintentional biases. And I think we need to do more of that so teachers can actually see, oh, this is how I feel. So I need to make, like you said, make that shift, that mind shift.
And part of that is because people are uncomfortable talking about it. It's like, well, if we just pretend it's all right, and we have this thing that we do, or we've got Black History Month, and we've got, whatever. So, I mean, what else do we need? You know what I mean? And hey, look, on student council, we've got like a token kid over here, so our school is fine. What do we need to worry about?
I'm not racist. My next door neighbor's black, and the kid comes over and plays with me.
Right.
Or plays with my child. So like now,
I mean, I gave an A to a black kid last year, so I obviously am not racist.
Right.
That's all the evidence I need.
And sometimes it's mind blowing that people really think that way.
Yeah. Well, they want to feel good about themselves. I mean, it's inherent that you want to feel that you're a good person.
I think it's also just kind of an old mindset of racism means hate, right?
Mm-hmm.
When people picture racism, they picture outright bigotry.
Yeah.
But like, racism is so quiet. It's so subtle. And that's really where it's dangerous.
I was reading, I did an article for achievethecore.org, and I put,
cool.
And I just finished one with Edutopia, and I also put in there, I don't know if you read it, Peggy Macintosh's, The Invisible Knapsack is about white privilege.
Nope.
It's a really good read.
Okay.
It's basically, and you go through and you read it, and you're just like, wow, I didn't know that some of these privileges were really, like, real. And you think, and I'm like, wow, like, even for me as a black man reading this about white privilege, I'm like, I've seen this so many different times and would have never thought it was privilege.
One of the first eye-opening experiences for me, I was at college. I was part of student government. I was, for no reason at all, I don't know, I was vice president of my dorm, which is such a weird thing. How you...
What does that mean? Can you
I don't
declare war on
know,
other dorms?
but no one else was running, and so I said, okay. Well, me and my buddy, there was like the
president of a dorm,
and I was good friends with the guy on the first floor, and I lived on the 5th floor. He's like, I'm going to run for vice president. Why don't you do it too? Okay. And then someone was elected president, and she was a black young lady.
Vice presidents?
2 vice presidents, one for floors 1 through 4, 1 through 5 through 8.
Yeah, no. Historically, triumvirates work great.
Yes. And then we had the president, and so she was in charge. And Tedisco, you would have been pretty similar to my other vice president. We were just a couple of idiots, okay? And
Thanks.
Well, we organized like the ice cream social that you would have in like your dorm lounge, and there were campus-wide things that were going on, which we didn't really deal with those because our president went to that. Except one time she couldn't make it because she had a prior obligation. So me and the other vice president were supposed to go. And you know what we thought was a good idea?
I don't want to know.
Let's do shots. So we were really full-scale idiots at that meeting, and I mean, I hate to think what I said, but that's not related to this. Anyway, that's just so the president, who was this great person, much more responsible, I was in student government because I think she was really trying to have a better school. We just did it like, oh, no one's running, I'll be vice president, why not? So we had to go get stuff for some social thing we were having. And she's like, hey, 2 white guys, I just want you to see how my world works. And I go, what are you talking about? She's like, okay, we're at the mall. She's like, don't walk in this store with me, the next store. Just kind of walk by. She goes, and watch how long it takes from the minute I step inside the store till someone asks me, do I need any help? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, just watch. And like, we did it to like 3 or 4 stores. And like, and I don't know, Keenan, if you've experienced this, have you experienced that?
Yes,
But,
no, I have.
We don't, and this is the things, like, that doesn't show up in statistics. So I was arguing with somebody like, well, look at these statistics. I'm like, you can't look at statistics of like, the time someone clutched their pearls and the time someone came into a store and then all of a sudden like, do you need any help? Can I help you? And then they just literally followed her the entire way around the store for the entire time she was in there to make sure that, you know, she wasn't shoplifting. That just weighs on you time after time after time after time. And we as white people don't understand that there's a cumulative nature to that kind of treatment.
It's sad because, like, even now as, like, an adult, I went to BJ's, the wholesale store, and I was buying a printer from there. I don't know why I needed a new printer. I just needed it. And I before going there, I went to Target, and I charged or something on my bank card, my debit card there, went over to BJ's to make another expensive purchase, and the bank froze my card because they thought it was fraud. Well, when I got there, I was treated, it was so weird. The woman assumed that I stole the card from somewhere. And I was like, no, this is my card. I even took out my ID. I showed her, like, you know, it had the same name. I even pulled up I was like, I don't need to steal your printer or a card. I have the money in my account. And I showed her to her. She's like, oh, I'm not saying that. I said, no, but what are you saying?
Yes.
It's so uncomfortable. It is so uncomfortable. And I think when I was younger, I wouldn't have, like, spoke up. I would have just, like, you know, put it back or left. I said, no, we're going to get this purchase today. So ever since, it was like, no, you're not going to treat me like this because of the color of my skin. You think I'm stealing a card after I I identified who I was. And I can't steal someone else's ID. I look like myself. Like, the person on that ID is the person standing in front of you. So no, it was definitely eye opening as an adult and actually seeing it and recognizing what's going on. Yeah,
and that's the thing.
It's sad, but I guess that's society, and it's like we have to start shifting that mindset and trying to have more positive experiences for everyone.
It was a lady or man that you dealt with in the in BJ's?
It was a lady.
Do you think you changed her perspective, or do you think that when I know you did it, you know, no?
I don't know. I don't think so. I just think that I just think that she didn't want to deal with me after that. I think she was the assistant manager or the customer service supervisor. I don't know what she was, but I just felt like after that, she was just like, oh, and like, I basically became the angry black man.
Yeah.
Because like, I wasn't irate, but I was getting to the point that I was fed up because of the situation. But I don't think I changed her mind or any stereotype that she had. And
that goes back to the thing you were saying about having to be better. Now, when next time you go into BJ's, you have to like have that conversation with yourself and go, okay, Keenan, am I going to be like, is she going to remember me as the angry black man, or am I going to be the one that she sees as someone who had a bad day with their bank card and stood up for themselves, but now is the one that says, hey, how you doing, racist lady? You know? That's the challenge sometimes, is to drum the stereotype out of her head as if that's your job. You know what I mean? Right. Which sadly it shouldn't have to be, but it kind of becomes partially your job.
I guess the way I think of it is that in the world full of Karens, we always should be better.
Yes.
Better, rise above the Karen.
Yes. Yeah, it's tough.
Yes. I think it's funny though, because like, I was like, oh, the word or the name Karen for, a person that's called the police, like, a white person usually. I thought it would have like just faded away after, a few weeks. But no, it's still hanging on and going tough.
There's now
yes.
There's now like a NAAKP, which is, the National Association for the Advancement of Karen People. But there really is an organization. There really is. They're like, we need to stop having people called Karen, and it's prejudice. I'm like, you're actually being a Karen by saying that we should stop calling you Karen. Like you're literally like reinforcing the stereotype.
Yourself.
Yes.
You are. It's just some weird like thing you're caught up in, They want it put in the dictionary as a racial slur. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yes, they want. like the word Karen in the dictionary, a racial slur that people call, like, middle-aged white people that complain to managers about. And they're like, they really want it in there. I'm like, really? That's what you want?
I just can't believe they made an organization in AAKP.
No. I'm the letters I changed. Those letters are mine. Those letters are mine. I don't know what it's called.
Bold.
No, that they didn't do. They have some other. I'm sure they have letters because you can't have an organization without letters. That's just a thing.
I'm just curious to go back to school and see how many teachers I'll have to call a Karen.
Oh,
because I feel it. I feel like someone's gonna call the principal on me, and I'm gonna have to Karen. I'm not the one. I'm not like that, but I think now I'm thinking about some of the behavior of colleagues. They do fit the description of Karen.
Oh yeah.
I'll just leave a meme on their door.
Yes.
I stay late, so I'll just put it on their door of Karen in the park with the cell phone or something.
Oh yeah, because your description of the manager at BJ's, I'm like, I know teachers who have handled their students the same way. And the kids will look at them right in the face and say, you see everybody else doing the same thing I'm doing, but you're only getting on me for this.
But kids notice that even in first grade.
Yes.
Really?
When we do a buddy room system where if a kid needs a break, they can come to my room. Sometimes I end up with a lot of students because somehow they think that I'm this best thing since sliced bread. I'm like, I'm not, but okay. I think it's because I give out snacks to my kids.
That helps.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to show up.
Kids are like pigeons. You feed them once and they'll keep coming. Yeah.
Yes.
So they're like, well, such and such and such and such is doing the same thing in my class, but I'm the only one that gets in trouble. And I was like, I understand that, but you have to make sure you keep yourself on. And usually it's a minority. Well, most of our students are minorities. But, and I was like, well, you just have to make sure you control your body and keep yourself on task. But then a lot of times I feel like I have to go talk to the teacher and in private, hey, your student is saying that you're calling them out. I know it's not any of my business, but right. I feel like maybe you should take a different approach to it. And I only do it to people that I'm close to, so I don't offend anyone.
Right.
But I think a lot of times, as a teacher, you have to step back and look at your approach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you won't be now all of our kids are going to call them. Yeah. And
now there are the kids also that and this is not good teaching practice. This is unprofessional of me. But some kid was claimed I was picking on them all the time. I'm like, actually, raise your hand if you think I'm picking on so and so.
No.
Raise your hand if you think they're wrong and they've been disruptive and that's why I'm correcting them. And watch all the hands shoot up. Don't do that. I shouldn't have done that. That's not right.
That's really cathartic.
I was defensive and they were beating that drum and I'm like, dude, no, you are out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I noticed that a lot of, and I've done something similar, even though I teach first grade. Raise your hand if you heard the directions the first 5 times. And then all the whole class is raising their hand. I said, did Mr. Lee give the directions 5 times? And they're all shaking their head and raising their hand. And then that 1 or 2 students are just sitting there looking at me. I said, well, you should have probably been talking. But then I helped them. But then I think maybe they're only almost 7. So maybe I should just go and give it for the 10th time, that direction. But you just get frustrated, especially by the end of the day. And after you repeat, because you guys teach older kids, and you repeat directions, but in in elementary school, it's a different ball game repeating those directions.
I can't even imagine.
Oh, yeah.
I stand at my door when they go in, and every 3 children, I say, go in, put your stuff away, sit on the carpet. Every 3, so it's a recording. So by the 10th or 12th time that I do that, the kids are I already know what you're going to say. I said, but I still got to say it.
Yes.
So but it's different, and it's frustrating, but then you get tired, like you said. And maybe I was having a bad day when I did that, but I felt better after doing it.
And you still help the kid. It's a life lesson, and you help them. You didn't just leave them high and dry.
Yes.
You listen the first 5 times, not on the 10th time.
Oh.
I mean, I can't imagine that because, at 5 years old, I would forget that I had to pee. So, directions for math, no, that's...
Well, developing that relationship, and then, afterward, I probably pulled him aside and kind of had a little one-on-one conversation, I don't know if I'd apologize, but I kind of straighten out and say, listen, this is the deal.
My first year teaching, we had a really needy group of students. I mean, it's my first year, so I had no perspective, but even the other teachers around me were like, no, these kids are exceptionally needy. Like, they'll all just come right up to you, and, like, you'll just get 30 questions all at the same time. And so the social studies teacher that I was working with, she implemented a rule. She said, okay, the rule is you're not allowed to ask me a question until you've asked 3 other people. All right. And if they can answer it, they will.
Ask 3, then me. Ask 3, then me. Did you say it like that? Did you make that rhyme? That's the thing,
Oh,
right?
I didn't make that work in my classroom because I was just failing at everything. So my first year teaching was dumpster fire.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine too.
That's what it's for.
Yes, it is. It is.
So like the 3 before me doesn't work in my class. I'm the first, the second, and the third. I was like, no, you sit at a table with 4 other people. 4 other people. And you just think you have to beeline straight to me. And I'm like, so you have to progress monitor, and then probably in the middle of progress monitoring someone and take my finger trying to redirection them back to their seat, like detour, go that way, and they're like, they're still coming full steam ahead. And I just get that look on my face like, yes, how can I help you? And then it's like, oh, can I sharpen my pencil? I think it was more of an intention thing. You just wanted to come see me because you were sitting at your table for too long by yourself.
Yeah.
So you had to beeline back to me, and I'm like, well, I guess the first, second, and third person at your table didn't know the answer for you, so you had to just come to me. And I watched him. I watched the kid. He never asked anyone at his table, like, can I sharpen my pencil? Like, what's the rule? Like, he's been there since the beginning of the school year. I watched him get up and walk straight over to me. Some days in element, I'm telling you, everyone needs to experience an early childhood classroom.
Oh, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. I'll pass. I was at a church many years ago, and my wife and I worked with the teens, and then for some reason the teens weren't meeting, or they were I don't know what the deal was, and the person who worked with the K through 5th grade or whatever, something like that, said, hey, would you like to sit in here and help out with us? Like, oh, we do puppet shows and we do this. I'm like, sure, I'll give it a whirl. I didn't have any kids at the time, and I sat in, and they had little tasks for me to do and helping out with the kids. And this is just an hour and a half. So we get done, and the kids all leave, and the leader, he comes over to me and goes, so, didn't you just absolutely love it? And I'm like, no, I will not be back. Sorry.
At least you were honest.
Yeah, I'm like, I did not love that. I said, I am so glad you found your thing, and they need you, and you need them, and it is just beautiful. I said, but not this one. Find your lane. And like you like elementary school, but it sounded like from what you said earlier, you wouldn't want to teach 5th graders. Is that correct?
I don't know. I may or may not be toying with the idea of middle school.
Okay. Well, Tedisco can tell you what that's like. The hormones are a-raging. I'll tell you that's what's happening in the middle school.
It's like playing whack-a-mole, but with fires that you have to put out.
Yes.
It's like my first grade class on steroids.
Yes.
Your first grade class on hormones.
Yes. They don't know why they're sad. They don't know why they're like, it's just like,
They're just. There's no other word. They're just.
Yeah, it really is. Really is.
Well, one good thing about my first graders, if you ever need to learn a TikTok dance,
they know them all?
Listen. Yes. They will teach you a TikTok dance in a heart. Like, one time my principal was walking through the building, and my class obviously had me pull up the Renegade TikTok dance tutorial. I said, okay, so we'll do it for a brain break. And I said, oh, we'll do it for 10 minutes. Ended up being 30. But, so I pulled it up, and they're like, Mr. Lee, you're not doing it right. Your hip needs to move this way. Your arm needs to go this way. I said, listen, Mr. Lee's a little bit older than you, so we're going to have to improvise a little bit. So my principal walks past and looks in and said, what you doing? I said, oh, it's a brain break. I said, we've only been doing it for 30 minutes. I was honest. For 30 minutes. I said, we're working on group collaboration, working on those skills that the kids need. But 30 minutes of that, and it's like, okay, so now you need to get your cell phone out so we can make the video. No, I was like, no, this is a little much. You're not putting me on the internet.
Yeah.
Do your first graders have cell phones, like a lot of them?
My class, not this past year, but the year before, I had 23 students, and about 12 of them had cell phones.
Wow.
So the one little girl would walk around making a vlog, and she would walk up to my table and put the phone in here's my teacher, Mr. Lee, doing work.
Oh my
I said,
God.
you better delete that. But it was funny. She would go home and show her mom. And I said, oh, man. She said, well, the mom told me, she said, at least I know you work. You're always on the camera working. I said, well, I'm glad that you know that I do something all day.
That's
so I
great.
just realized this. Is it sometimes a strategy just to exhaust the kids so that they will settle down?
It doesn't work. It doesn't.
You can't do
I'm
it?
telling you. You can do that 30 minutes, and I was winded and tired after that 30 minutes sweaty. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, let's do this one. I said, no, we're done. I have to teach you something today. Something
Okay.
needs to be taught.
So there's
And I'm
no
like,
wearing
oh,
out a first grader, huh?
No. Mm-mm. Now, sometimes we would like their rewards. Sometimes they would like to watch something on Disney Plus or Netflix, but they have to meet a certain criteria to do that.
Mhm.
And now they would curl up on the carpet and go to sleep. And I was like, peace at last, peace at last. And then all of a sudden they're hollering, oh, I got to go to the bathroom. Or then there's a wet spot on the carpet.
Oh!
Yeah. Oh, no, it happens. It does.
Oh, I bet it does. I bet it does. Yeah.
That doesn't happen so much in middle school.
No, I hope not.
A fire drill, I had a student say, I have to go to the bathroom. And I said, I can't let you go. So the little girl peed herself up the stairs. And then she had to stand there. I felt bad. But I was like, you have to let me know before. Like, I didn't know what's going to happen, obviously. But I said, during fire drills, I can't just let you go to the bathroom. So she was standing outside wet.
Oh, poor kiddo.
Oh.
I said, anything that can happen always happens to me. I tripped and fell in the classroom.
You tripped and fell?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Over the carpet, over the chairs,
Oh.
over the kids.
Listen,
okay.
And did you? What was your recovery? Did you play it off? Did the kids laugh? Were you hurt or not hurt?
Well, no. They always make sure you're okay first, and then they laugh. Or
okay.
sometimes they laugh. So I mean, I've laughed at them fall over things. I can't help it.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I was doing. I was trying to walk through the kids on the carpet, and obviously they have to be right next to each other and right up on top of you. And like I'm tripping, like not trying to step on fingers, so I'm stepping over, and then someone lifts their arm up, and I'm falling forward, so I fell into my chair. And they're like, "Oh, what happened?" I said, "Oh, well, just a magic arm came out of nowhere and knocked me down." And they're like, "I'm like, no, it was your arm. Your arm knocked me down." I've had a student we were learning math, and I looked back, and he was sitting there. Next thing I know, he just falls off the chair, and he's just laying there on the floor, like flat out, like nothing's wrong. I walk over, I was like, "You all right?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "You can get up?" And he laid there for about 15 minutes. I said, "All right, just let me know if you need anything."
Cool. Just chilling.
Hey, if that's going to make you feel
You're
better.
not running, so.
You're not running, you're laying, but okay. I also had a student this year that always fell asleep during ELA. So
Really?
our block was like a little over 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, I put breaks and bathroom stuff and all in there, but every time I would go to teach, he would sleep. And I had to have a sit-down conversation with him. I said, am I that boring that you have to sleep every day? He said, no, I just don't want to learn. I said, okay. I said, so how can I help you learn? How can I make you want to learn? He said, I played my video games half the night. So I mentioned to Mom that since he doesn't go to sleep or sleep the whole night through, I said, I take melatonin sometimes. I said, go get him 1 or 2 milligrams and give it to him and see how it works. And she thanked me.
Oh,
because he slept. I said, yeah. Then she said, I'm out. I said, do you need me to go get you a bottle? Because I will.
I know that's right.
We need him. Like, because literally he would sleep for over 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I would wake him up, and like he's missed so much instruction from that.
Yeah.
And like I just felt bad because he didn't sleep at night, but for that short period of time that he was taking that melatonin, it really helped.
Oh yeah,
That's good stuff.
Melatonin's real. Like it helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I take it now. I have the gummies.
I probably need to take some. My sleep schedule's off because of the whole COVID thing. So I'm normally really, really good sleeper, but my body is on a completely different schedule with this whole being home for a million years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Keenan, we don't want to keep you here too much longer, but I'm loving this conversation. Do you have any other fun stories from the classroom?
Well, I fell in the hallway on the wet floor, but no, the kids weren't there. The custodian.
Keenan, I think you need to see a doctor about your balance, possibly.
No, I really do. So I bought these new shoes, and like they were like slick on the bottom, and I was like, I'm gonna wear them today because it's professional development. And I was walking, I didn't know the floor was wet. I was like, I knew it was wet, but I didn't know how wet it was. So I was walking and I slipped and I slid. My one leg went out front, the other one bit behind me. I had books like all laying in front of me. And there was another teacher looked and said, "You all right?" I said, I guess. I guess. I don't know. I don't know. Once I move my leg, I'll let you know. Because I didn't want to get her in trouble, so I didn't tell.
Oh.
Because like it was her first day, so I'm like, I'm not going to be that teacher to tell on the custodian that I fell on your wet floor. And I mean, I love her now because she's a really good cleaner. Like my classroom's always spotless. Maybe that, or she feels sorry that I fell on the wet floor. No, but it's definitely interesting. I don't know. I have a lot of funny stories, but I don't know what else to tell. So like, well, I told her I had a child in my classroom. She was angry at me. She destroyed everything on my table. Not destroyed. She threw it all off my table. And next thing I turned around, she's standing on top of the counter trying to swing for my curtain rod with the curtains.
Oh my goodness!
It's not funny. But I turned around and said, "What are you doing? You're not Tarzan. Get down."
Oh, yeah. I'm guessing that's in first grade. You can't turn around for a second, huh?
Well, no. If I turn around, they're there. I turn around, they're back. Like I turn around to do something. I turn around. There's someone standing there. I'm like, "Hi. How can I help you?" I was like, "Oh, I was just coming to say hi." Oh, okay. Well, hi. You can do it from your seat.
Yeah. I just wanted to give you a hug. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
your nose is running.
Sounds like an ongoing challenge. Yeah, that they just want to come. They want to be near the one adult that's in the room and explain to them that there's that 30 of them can't all be next to me at the same time. That's like impossible.
If we go back to school and say that we put up plexiglass or whatever type of partitions, how are they going to have recess? I was thinking, well, I'm going to have to go from each plexiglass station and play tic-tac-toe on the plexiglass from the other side. I said, I could just see this now. It's going to be a mess.
It was such a sad picture. I saw it online, and because in England they were still having school, and so what they did was they took these circles and they drew them in the out in the playground, and the kid was in that, and then the kid was in another circle that was like far enough away from that circle. And they showed a picture, and there's just like 5 kids in these circles, and they're just sitting in the middle of the circle just looking sad because...
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing about that, but I can just imagine now in my classroom having circles. I'm in this one circle, and it's like fighting off germs. All the kids coming up like karate chopping them back. I mean, I would never really do that.
Yes.
No, just bring in a spray bottle, like for cats.
Okay.
Back in your circles.
Yes. I don't know how it's going to work, and especially elementary school. They want hugs and love all the time.
Of course they do.
So, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, we just really thank you for tuning in, and we appreciate you. And as always, stay unprofessional.
Thanks for tuning in, Unprofessionals. Man, what a great conversation with Keenan Lee. You guys can check out his 2 articles in the show notes, as well as the article he mentioned about the invisible knapsack. That's a really good read. Next week, our guest is going to be Alex Adams. She's an English teacher, so she and I geek out about books and theater. So please tune in next week. Here's a little taste of the future with Alex Adams.
And I was going to be a theater education major. That was originally my goal, was I wanted to teach theater classes.
Cool.
But I ended up bumping heads with the head of the theater department. The way that he ran rehearsals was like you had to call a phone number that day to see whether you needed to be at rehearsal that evening. And I was taking out loans and paying for school myself. So I had a job, and that schedule and working with, trying to work and put myself through school didn't work out.
You can't tell your boss, hey, I'm going to call this number on Thursday, and then if I'm done, I'll tell you if I'm working or not. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. The real world doesn't work that way. And I remember he came up to me one day and he said, well, that's the story of your life, Alex. You can't be in plays because you have to work, and you can't see plays because you have to work. When I was in college, I took out student loans. And I was like, I am taking out student loans, but they don't cover everything. So I have to work. And I think probably the next day I went and changed my major. And the closest thing I could get without having to stay an extra year was English. And I liked reading. So I was like, okay. So I went through and I finished my undergrad in English. And then I had no idea what I was going to do. I had a BA in English. What do you do with a BA in English?
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, I love that. Avenue Q is a great musical.
Q. Great.
Yeah, I love musicals. And I ended up running into my old French teacher from high school, and she told me about this program that the district had, transition to teaching program, where basically I would apply, I would take some classes over the summer, they'd get me, the preliminary certification, I'd get hired, I'd work for the district for 3 years, and then they would also pay for me to get a master's degree.
Oh, that's nice.
So really, it was thanks to one of my teachers that I'm even a teacher at all.
That's cool.
Because, it was awesome. Madam Tony, Christine Tony, if you're out there and you ever listen to podcasts, thank you so much. You changed my life.
We do love
for
you.
real.
I will say this though about your drama teacher. It's not surprising, but I've just known a few drama teachers, and you know how I would describe drama teachers?
Uh-oh.
They're dramatic.
Go. Well, I do not lack
Neely.
any drama. That's
They
for
are,
sure.
for real. I'm not lying.
I love drama. It's good stuff. I used to do community theater all the time. Yeah.
Okay.
We all have it. We like
And
to
have
hear
people
ourselves
described
talk,
you as
too,
dramatic?
I think. Once or twice, sure, yeah. All the time. My family would definitely describe me as dramatic.
Dramatic?
What? Exactly. For shame. So then I got hired at the school that I've been working at for 15 years.